Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Laren in Kentucky says, Torres, who's your national coach of the year at this point in the season? I'll tell you what, Laren. No disrespect, because I love you. Laren's been a long-time listener to this show. Rather than talking coach of the year, let's talk big picture. Let's talk my mid-season Final Four. Because in my opinion, one, that's an interesting topic. But two, and it's not to say that national coach of the year is not interesting. But two, also, this is kind of the right time to do it, right? Because when we're looking at the basketball calendar, it's worth noting that we are now basically at the halfway point of the college basketball season, because most teams, here's the thing, most teams have played about 16, 17 games, okay? Well, guess what? On a season in college basketball, you play 31 regular season games. If you get to your conference championship game, you usually play about 34 games going into the NCAA tournament. So if you played 17 games so far, that's right around the halfway point. So let's get to Torres's mid-season Final Four in college hoops. The first team in my mid-season Final Four, it is producer Matt's Auburn Tigers. Okay, so Auburn. Let's talk Auburn, because I know what people are going to say. Oh, Torres, they just lost Janai Broome. They stink. How are they ever going to be good without a blah, 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 to that? Well, first, I don't really care about the injury. Let me explain why. One, we saw them against Mississippi State. They destroyed Mississippi State the other night, and that game was at home. Now, I know what you would say. Well, it's a good team, but they were at home. What happens when they go on the road? Well, what I think about with Auburn is pretty straightforward. Is yes, you never want to lose a an All-American National Player of the Year type candidate. But at the same time, first off, Auburn, I believe, is as good as anybody at it. They're in as good a position as anybody to withstand that kind of injury. They're really deep. They play a lot of guys. They're probably the only team in college basketball with a fifth-year senior at center in Dylan Cardwell that, credit to Bruce Pearl for keeping that kid in the program, because that's a kid that in a lot of other places would have transferred, wouldn't have stuck around. He has been with the Auburn Tigers for 5 years. So how many schools have a fifth-year center that's been in their program as the backup? Well, now he's getting starters minutes, and I think he's going to be fine. The other thing that Auburn has going for it, and it seems kind of crazy to me, is the schedule actually breaks pretty nicely for them, especially in this loaded SEC. We talked about it the other day, but let's say Janai Broome is out till February 1st, okay? That doesn't seem – he could be back sooner. He certainly could be back later. But it's January 16th as I record. They have a grand total of 3 games between now and February 1st. So look at the schedule, okay? They play at Georgia this weekend. Georgia's good. I'm still a little bit of a seller. They got destroyed on the road at Tennessee the other night, okay? I'm a little bit of a seller on Georgia, but whatever. We'll see what happens there. Then, and this is just a fortuitous break, they get a full week off before they return next Saturday. So this coming Saturday is what, the 18th or the 19th, something like that. So let me do some quick math here. It's the 18th, okay? They don't play again until the following Saturday against Tennessee, and then they have LSU on the road. And so basically, let me put it this way. Over a 3-week stretch, they have a game this weekend, then a full week off, then Tennessee at home, then at LSU. That is all they have left between now and February 1st. And so everything kind of lines up nicely for Janai Broome to come back around February 1st, not really miss much time, and Auburn potentially to go 3-0, maybe 2-1, but I just don't see this big drop-off. And the other thing with Auburn really quick, their resume is so good that they can afford a loss or two without Janai Broome, maybe 2 or 3 really, and it's not going to impact them as a seed. It's not going to impact them falling down the bracket projections. Look at this. How about this? This is a crazy stat. Auburn has 9 quad 1 wins right now. 9 quad 1 wins. That is by far the most in the country. Unless I miss something, no one else has more than 5 in America. So you look at Auburn's resume, only team to beat Iowa State, beat Houston on a neutral, beat Memphis on a neutral, beat North Carolina on a neutral, beat Purdue on a neutral, beat Ohio State on a neutral, beat Mississippi State at home, beat Texas on the road. Those are all quad 1 wins, and they're all going to carry weight throughout the season. So I'm not worried about Auburn. They are definitively in my too early midseason Final Four. They are the first team. Second team in my midseason Final Four. The team that Auburn beat that has not taken a loss since, the Iowa State Cyclones. So we did not talk Iowa State, Kansas. They played on Wednesday. Iowa State, I kind of felt like toyed with them. And I thought Bill Self had kind of an incredible quote after that game that kind of summed up that game in terms of what Iowa State does to you. Let me see if I can find this quote because it is an unbelievable quote. Let's see here. This is the entire thing. Let's see here. Oh, that's behind a paywall. Basically, he said something to the effect of, there's a difference between wanting it and doing it. And he's like, those guys do it. We just say we want it. We're not tough enough. Basically, that's what he said. I mean, I could find the quote, but it doesn't really matter. But you look at Iowa State. Only loss is to Auburn. That was a game, by the way. They had an 18-point lead on Auburn. But I also love this team, love the way they're put together. Remember, they bring back a lot of pieces from a team that made the elite or the Sweet 16 a year ago. They lost to Illinois in the Sweet 16. And they won the Big 12 conference tournament. And on top of all of the returnees, they just did some really smart stuff in the portal. They don't go after the biggest names in the portal. They make sure guys fit. And if you watch them, this Joshua Jefferson kid that they got from St. Mary's, now I thought he was a little bit better than he was given credit for. I didn't think he was going to be this good. 12 points, 8 boards per game. Against Kansas, had 10 points, 12 boards, 3 assists. I mean, he was basically playing point forward. Kansas had no answer for him. And so you have Joshua Jefferson. The Deshaun Jackson kid down low is really good. I know that they just suffered an injury, but this team is so talented. The three-headed monster of Curtis Jones, Keyshawn Gilbert, and also Tamin Lipsey on the perimeter are phenomenal. But I think Josh Jefferson is the difference between this year and last year. I have Iowa State also in my Final Four. Let's keep it going. My third team in the Final Four. This is where it starts to get a little interesting. A team that if you listen to this show, Torres has been gushing about this team. The Illinois Fighting Illini. So Torres just can't get enough of Illinois. And Illinois, I will say this, is I generally tend to like veteran teams that have been around, that have done it before. Illinois is the exact opposite. If you watch Illinois, you know that basically Illinois, it's kind of crazy. Their top 3 players are essentially freshmen in class. Kasparas Yakashonis, their point guard, Will Riley, and then Tomislav Ivicic, which is obviously Big Z's brother, is technically a 21-year-old first-year college player. He's listed as a sophomore. But I love this team, and I'll say this. When they're healthy, they basically destroy everybody, okay? 25-point win at Indiana the other day, which is basically going to cost Mike Woodson his job. What was it, a 35-point win at Oregon? I know what people say, oh, they just lost to USC. Yeah, they didn't have their starting point guard. What do you want from me? Stop. Every time I say anything nice about Illinois, well, they just lost to USC. First of all, shout out to Musbus. He's turning things around there. They beat Iowa the other day too. But it's also, a lot of teams will lose when your most important player is out, who is also a lottery pick. It's going to happen. It's okay. But over the last probably 6 weeks, this team's only losses, Tennessee at the buzzer and USC without their most important player. When they have their full lineup, they are destroying everybody. I don't know if they're going to win the Big Ten because the Big Ten is so weird. 18 teams, such an imbalanced schedule. Not everybody plays everybody twice, let alone barely everybody once. And so, like, as an example, they already played Wisconsin, got that win, but then there's some other, the point I'm trying to make, I don't know if they're going to win the Big Ten. Michigan State 6-0, Michigan's 5-0. They already have 2 losses. One of them came very early in the season. The other one was USC the other day. But to me, they're the best team in the Big Ten. They have the highest upside in the Big Ten. And this kid, Yakashonis, I keep telling you, this kid is, I think he's going to be a top 3 pick. Mark it down, January 16th. Everybody's talking about Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey at Rutgers. I think Yakashonis goes top 3. Illinois is my third Final Four team. Finally, my fourth Final Four, midseason Final Four team. Surprise, maybe, out of the SEC. Out of the SEC, where am I going to go? Could go with about 8 different teams here. I'm going to go with the Florida Gators. And I know what everyone's going to say. Oh, Torres, Florida just lost to Missouri. Do you not watch the games? Yeah, I watch the games. Everybody in the SEC is going to take losses at various points. It's going to happen. It's okay. But I love this team. And I think, in my opinion, they fit the profile of a lot of teams that traditionally make Final Four runs. Veteran team. I know I said Illinois is really young. I think Florida's the opposite. Veteran team. A lot of those guys have played in multiple NCAA tournaments. Walter Clayton played in an NCAA tournament at Iona, transferred to Florida, played last year. Elijah Martin, 2 NCAA tournaments, including a Final Four at Florida Atlantic. By the way, I'm wearing my 2023 Final Four shirt with the Florida Atlantic logo on there. So shout out to Florida Atlantic. He was in a Final Four at Florida Atlantic. All those guys on Florida played in the NCAA tournament last year. Veteran guards. And the thing I keep going back to, I keep saying it, they are a good defensive team, very good defensive team, and they're a great rebounding team. And what's funny is when you watch them come in the gym, they kind of got these tall, skinny guys that look like they want to hang out on the perimeter, Thomas Hawk and Alex Condon. And then you watch them play, and they're bangers. They go down low, they throw elbows, they get boards. Like the reason that they beat Arkansas was they just kept getting second and third chances every single possession, and that's basically what they do to everybody. Should give a shout out to Ruben Chinyelu as well, because to me, I thought he was one of the more underrated gets in the portal. He's kind of that bulky guy down low. So when I look at Florida, I just look at the veteran guards, the three-point shooting, the defense, the rebounding, the second chance points. That is my official mid-season Final Four: Auburn, Iowa State, Florida, Illinois. A couple teams that just missed the cut. Duke. Listen, Duke's really good. Duke is really good. I do wonder if a little bit of Duke's stature is being, overhyped. Is that the right word? By the fact that, the ACC is really bad. Like, you could say that doesn't play a role, but let's call a spade here. Duke, of their 2 biggest games outside of Cameron Indoor. Now, they did beat Auburn. That is a great win. Not trying to take it away from them. Lost to Kansas on a neutral, lost to Kentucky on a neutral. So I'm not saying that they're bad. They're very, very, very good. They're a very talented team. Cooper Flagg is probably going to win National Player of the Year, depending on how long Janai Broome is out. I just worry big picture. So many young guys, and I know they have veterans, this and that, but it's going to come down to Cooper Flagg, Malawach, Con Knipple, especially on the offensive end of the court. And so I look at that Duke team, I worry a little bit. Kentucky, I'm about 2 weeks away from Kentucky being in this conversation. I need to see them consistently play with the defensive effort that they have over the last couple games. So I would put them in the mix as well. Producer Matt, I didn't give you this one, but I would put Alabama right on the cusp. I know that they just lost the other day. I'm not as worried as everybody else. They still have great guard play, shoot the ball well. They're really big. I think that's the thing that stands out. They walk in the gym. They are so big with Omayori, Grant Nelson, Jaron Stevenson, Darian Reed, on and on. So I would have Alabama right on the cusp. I'll be honest, I kind of forget some of the other teams that I gave you, but Duke, Kentucky, Alabama. I'd put Tennessee on the cusp. I don't know if they have enough offense. Houston's probably on the cusp. I still think UConn, I'm not sold on UConn, especially without Liam McNeely. Marquette's probably a team that should be in the conversation as well. But those are my Final Four in the midseason of Auburn, Iowa State, Florida, and Illinois. Shout out producer Matt for getting everything up.